Now, before we start, if you haven't already watched part 1 and part 2 of this trial coverage, please go do that first. I'm serious, because today, day 3, Cassie laid out some of the most raw, heartbreaking, and horrifying testimonies I've ever heard. And if you jump in now without the context from the first 2 parts, you're going to miss how deep this actually goes. We're talking about over decades of abuse, physical violence, emotional breakdowns, drug addiction, surveillance, sexual exploitation, blackmail, and at one point, suicidal thoughts. This wasn't a relationship, this was a survival in a cage disguised as love. And today, Cassie laid it all out. She sat in front of the courtroom pregnant and walked us through the trauma that almost ended her life. So please take a deep breath before we dive in, because this one is really heavy. What's up, y'all? Thank you for tuning in to the Culture Debrief, where we break down the latest drama in Black culture. Because let's be real, if we don't talk about it, who will? So Cassie started from the beginning, like the real beginning. Not when she met him or when they went public, but the first time he ever put his hands on her. They had just finished dinner. Diddy had been flirting with some other woman, and Cassie noticed. She didn't say anything. She didn't even cause a scene. She just shrugged, and that was it. She said that he hit me in the side of my head and I fell to the floor of the car. That was the moment everything shifted. She said his driver and his security were both there, literally feet away when it happened, and they didn't say a word. They didn't stop him. They just kept driving like it was normal, like it was just part of the job. And if you could tell, Cassie was still shocked by it, even now. She said she didn't even understand what she did so wrong. She couldn't wrap her head around the fact that something so small, something so human had made him that angry. She just went home afterwards and hid. From that point on, things got even worse. Cassie said the physical abuse continued, and it wasn't occasionally, it was frequent. She said anytime he hit her, she had physical marks, bruises, knots on her head. Her body was constantly in recovery, constantly hiding what was really happening behind closed doors. She also talked about how people around them knew what was going on. Like this wasn't some hidden secret. Diddy wasn't being slick. People witnessed it. His assistant, his drivers, his security, one of her friends named Mia, who worked with them for a long time, literally quit because she couldn't take what she was seeing anymore. And Cassie didn't even try to downplay the fact that sometimes she fought back. She said there were moments where she did react, when she gets so overwhelmed or scared that she physically pushed back. But no matter what she did, she said, anytime he was physical, there will be at least some sort of trace, a bruise or something. So Cassie then told the courtroom about a night I don't think any of us will forget about hearing. They were leaving a party. She had been drinking. Diddy was yelling. And in a moment of frustration, she said she punched him. And that's when he snapped. He hit her inside the car, and not just a slap or a push. She said he literally stomped on her face. So let me repeat that. He stomped on her face. She tried to run away when they got home, literally jumped out the car and ran down the street, but the security team chased her down and dragged her back into the house. And once she was inside, she finally looked in the mirror and said, I didn't even recognize myself. So Cassie then talks about a time she went to a party at Prince's house. Yeah, that Prince. She didn't tell Diddy because she already knew how he would react. She said she just wanted to go with friends, have a good time, so she went. And when she saw Diddy there too, she said she got scared. She knew what was coming, and she said she ran out as fast as she could. Later that night, back at the hotel, he found her, and he started throwing luggages at her, screaming, calling her names, and hitting her. And when it was over, she was left with bruises on her face and knots on her head again. And then this part, Cassie says she walked out of her room one morning and saw Diddy holding her friend over the balcony of an LA apartment, like actually over the edge. She said he brought her back over and threw her onto the patio furniture. So now we're going to talk about 2011. Cassie had started secretly dating Kid Cudi. She was trying to move on, trying to have something normal outside of Diddy's shadow. But during one of the freakoffs, Diddy found some emails about it on her phone, and he lunged at her with a wine opener. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. A wine opener. She ran from the hotel and used a burner phone to call Cudi for help. She literally had to flee to safety. And still, she gave Diddy another chance. She agreed to go to his house to talk, maybe out of fear, maybe out of obligation. But when she got there, he was irritated. He threatened to release explicit tapes. He said that he will hurt her, he will hurt Cudi, and that he will be out the country when it happens. Cassie even sent an email to her mom and one of his employees explaining everything, including that he might leak a sexual encounter on Christmas Day. And guess what happened after that? Cassie said that sometimes later, Kid Cudi's car really did blow up. Diddy had told her earlier that he wanted Cudi's friends to see the explosion happen in front of his house. And when they all met up in Soho's house after the incident, Cudi asked him about it, and Diddy responded, "What vehicle?" So next, the prosecution played that video, the 2016 hotel hallway footage from the Intercontinental in LA. The one that floated around years ago but never got legal attention. So this time, though, they played it in court with Cassie on the stand. Assistant U.S. Attorney Johnson asked her what was in his hand, and she said nothing. They fast forwarded the tape 13 seconds. Johnson asked again, what was in his hand now? She said, my phone. She goes on to explain that Diddy had taken all of her stuff, her phone, her belongings, her sense of safety. And then she quietly dropped another moment from that night. She said that he threw a vase of flowers at me, and I remember it hitting a wall. So then they showed Cassie a photo taken after the incident. She was wearing a gown and sunglasses, standing next to Diddy at some bougie after party like everything was fine. But she said, I had a black eye and I changed clothes to hide bruises on my legs. So let that sink in. She was posing for photos with her abuser right after he allegedly assaulted her, and she had to coordinate her wardrobe, not for fashion, but, to hide in plain sight. Then came the moment that changed the energy of the whole courtroom. Prosecutors showed the jury still images from the freakoff videos. The same one Cassie said were used to blackmail her. And y'all, even though the public couldn't see the pictures, the reaction in the room told us everything. A female juror put her hand on her chest and took a deep breath. A male juror looked at the screen and then quickly turned his eyes away. Meanwhile, Diddy, he leaned closer to get a better look. So that part really broke me a bit, because imagine being so desensitized to what you've done to someone that you need to lean in and study it like art. Those images were never meant to be sensual. They were meant to break her. And the fact that the strangers in the courtroom could barely even look at them, and yet he was fully engaged, says a lot. Cassie then starts to explain what life was like after the freak-offs. She said that I had to take opiates, I wanted to feel numb, we get massages, IV fluids, and the chef would cook us something. Basically, after every session of being used, shared, or filmed, she had to treat it like a medical recovery. She says she got UTIs so often, even antibiotics stopped working. She had sores on her tongue from oral sexual encounters, and she said the pain during these encounters were intense. When the prosecutors asked her what it felt like, she said, burning, I would not advise it. She was even asked to read a text she sent to Diddy out loud, which said, I have all these sores on my tongue, I have another UTI. Cassie opened up about her drug dependency afterwards. She says she took narcotics with and from Diddy, and at one point she was using it daily, not to party, not to vibe, but just to cope. She says she tried to get help 5 or 6 times over the years, but always ended up back in it, back in the pain and back in the cycle. It wasn't until 2022 that she finally stopped for good. She says she went to rehab and she sought professional help. In 2018, Diddy says she started receiving angry, unannounced visits from Diddy. He would show up out of nowhere, pounding on doors, demanding access, just storming into her life like she was still his property. So she did what she had to do to feel safe. She wedged a large kitchen knife into her door handle. She even showed the court a photo. She said, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, lock it, and have a weapon. And then she shared something so painful the courtroom fell silent. In August 2018, Diddy asked to meet for dinner in Malibu. Cassie thought it was some type of closure. He was playful, seemed calm. So when he offered to drive her home, she accepted. And then she said this, and then he graped me in my living room. She paused, held back tears, and then continued. I just remember crying and saying no, but it was very fast. I don't even know if he noticed. She said they were intimate one more time after that voluntarily. And then they had few check-ins after, just messages, just sending love. So after Cassie finally cut things off, he wasn't done. In 2019, the threats started coming again, but this time it was digital, quiet, controlled, no public outbursts, just messages, threatening ones. Diddy messaged her saying, if I were you, I'll give me my money. Why? Because her now husband, Alex Fine, was originally her personal trainer and Diddy had paid for him. So now because she fell in love with someone who used to be on his payroll, he felt entitled to demand reimbursement. He followed that with, you will not be threatening me. And then he said, you have too many iPad full of skeletons. Basically, he was warning her not to say too much, not to speak out, don't tell the truth because he had things on her. Cassie responded, do you want me to tell the truth? There were way more than freak-offs. There were abuse. So many things happened in our relationship. So now here's where the part that completely shattered me. Cassie shared that in February 2023, she hit rock bottom. She just finished shooting a music video and something about the lights, the cameras, the performance, it triggered her. She started having flashbacks, panic trauma, just crashing out over like a wave. She told the court, I didn't want to be alive anymore at this point. I couldn't take the pain that I was in anymore, and so I tried to walk out the front door into traffic. She said her husband, Alex, had to physically stop her. He held her back and he saved her from walking straight into the street. And that's when she finally went to trauma therapy. She got help and she started healing for real. So now let's zoom out. By the end of day 3, one thing came crystal clear. Cassie didn't just tell her story, she told our story. She exposed what many women live through behind closed doors. How a man with money, fame, and power can control your body, your voice, your environment, your future, and still walk red carpets. We watched a woman sit in court, pregnant and tired, and still finding the strength to say, he hit me, he stomped on my face, he graped me, he ruined my body and told me to smile through it, he threatened me when I tried to heal. This isn't just about Diddy anymore. This is about the entire ecosystem that let him operate unchecked for years. All the enablers, the assistants, the security, the industry insiders, the execs, the friends who saw and did nothing, they all helped build a world where Cassie had to wedge a knife in her own door to feel safe in her home. They all helped keep a predator protected. And now the wall is cracking. Cassie's story is reminding people everywhere that just because someone is powerful doesn't mean they're protected from accountability forever. Because no matter how long it takes, the truth always comes out. And when it does, it no longer is about justice for one person. It's about exposing how many other people were silenced along the way. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you, because this was heavy and this was painful, but it was real. Please don't let the story just live in your feed for 5 minutes and fade. Like this video, comment your thoughts below. Let me know what scene hit you the hardest, what broke you, or what pissed you off. And subscribe to the Culture Debrief with the post notifications on, because day 4 is coming and you already know we're going to unpack all of it. So this is no longer just gossip, this is testimony, and we're going to make sure the world hears it.